Hello there, welcome to this little Spalluccipedia video, and you don't know how many times I had to practice that so I could try and get it right. Never use words with more than 2 syllables. Good advice. Anyway, so this little video is the first one in the series, and it sort of makes sense to talk about Sam. Sam Spallucci, who is my investigator paranormal, lives and works in my alternate version of Lancaster. And I want to talk a little bit about the back history about how Sam came into being, really. He was a sort of accident, is the best way to describe it. He first existed back in the dim and distant sepia ages of my teenage years. I'd watched the classic modern werewolf horror story, The Beast Must Die. I think it's early 1970s, and it was sort of like a werewolf whodunit sort of thing, and not wanting to put too many spoilers in, the hero ends up becoming infected and dying because he has to kill himself because he does want to be a werewolf. And I really enjoyed this, especially along with the fact that the hero was also vulnerable. I'd already been affected many years previous by the fact that Captain Britain in the British Marvel comics had been killed, not realising that he came back the next week and I'd actually stopped buying the comic. But that's another long story. So this notion of having a vulnerable hero really struck a chord with me. So I went away, I started writing about that sort of time. I must have been about 13, 14. And I came up with this little short story called Behold the Wolf, which I still have kicking around somewhere in a box. I was going to try and find it this morning and record it, but looking in dark boxes takes weeks to try and find what you're actually trying to look for. So I decided against that. And it was about this like hard-boiled cop, plainclothes cop, who was drawn into trying to investigate these werewolf-type things. And obviously ends up being scratched, bitten, whatever, and you see the last scene of him walking off into distance before you hear the final gunshot. He's obviously killed himself. And I took this into school to show my best mate at the time, then Henrik, and we were sat at the back of a chemistry lesson. I go to him, I read that, see what you think. And he read it. I said, oh yeah, I really like this, I said, yeah, what, you sure? He goes, yeah, it's like Sam Spade meets the Wolfman. I went, that's what it does. It does a bit. He says, so is he going to do more Sam Spade stories? I said, yeah, that guy's been done, has he? Like, I can't really do any more Sam Spade. But I liked the idea. And as it happened, Henry was sat on one side. On the other side of me was a girl called Maria Gallucci. And Spade, Gallucci, put two together, and it was Spallucci. And that's how Sam's name was born. It became Sam Spallucci. And that was it. I didn't do anything for probably about another 4 years or so. I had lots of things bouncing around inside. I was working on Fallen Angel at the time, a few short stories, and lots of other little bits and pieces which I've come back to later and started putting into expanded universe in Sam's world. But Sam himself remained more or less there in this little character in this short story which I'd written when I was 13, 14, very much in limbo. It wasn't until I moved away to university and did part 1 creative writing course. Little aside, never do a creative writing course. They're soul destroying. Oh look, here's my heart. What do you think to my heart? No, we don't like it. Give me your heart. Crush. Yeah, so creative writing, don't do it. Not worth it. So I had to write a story for this creative writing course. And I came back to Sam. And I took the idea of the werewolf again. And I had this story called The Case of the West End Werewolf. Which wasn't good. The opening was alright. I had this little line about how it always rains in Lancaster. But apart from that, he was very formulaic. But Sam was there, and the Mac was there, the hat was there, the cigarettes, the Jack Daniels. And he had to track down this werewolf who rampaged through the West End of London. Why the West End of London, I don't know. Probably only because I fancied using the alliteration, which of course has also stuck. You know, the cases for Sam's in his case books are almost always alliterated. And after that, I just carried on. I started writing bits and pieces, but nothing really coalesced then for, let's see, that'd be 1990? So probably about another 20 years. He was just there percolating away in the background. But yeah, it's, you know, Sam was a product of my teenage years. And that's when you have that little core of him. And he developed later. But I suppose that is for another time. Thanks for listening. Okay.